Everybody, guess what day of the week it is? It is Wellness Wednesday, and we are back here again in the JN Circle Thrive Together Life Class Series. And this is episode number 7. Can you believe it? I'm really excited to be here again, continuing on last week's conversation. So this week is part 2 in the Battle of the Sexes series. And this week we're talking about what men want. Last week we spoke about what women want. And I promise you, it was everything. It was fire, and it was rain, and it was storm, and it was delicious. And this week, we're going to be doing another 2-hour conversation on what men want. So you cannot afford to miss this. If you have a sister or a brethren who normally come to life class, please go ahead and call them, text them, hit them up, and tell them to run in because it's about to be really good. This week, I am joined by an amazing panel again, and you will see some familiar faces. This week, we have again with us Noran Price. Noran is a graphic designer, a marketer, and a media personality with a very smooth voice. Welcome back, Noran. How are you doing today?
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here again.
Yay. And we have the Broadtail in the building, Dania Beckford. She is confidence advocate. She is the spirit of all things fabulous, and she is the CEO of Broadtail Designs. Welcome, Dania. Welcome back.
I love life class, so I'm happy to be here.
Yay.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really glad to have us. How are we doing today? It's Wellness Wednesday. It's a rainy Wednesday. How are we feeling?
I'm good. I was emotional this morning. It's my son's first day at school, at a new school. He's 3 years old. He ball and roll on the concrete little bit. And it kind of had me on my feelings, but he came home and it was good. So I feel better now.
Did you cry
for life class.
It's a good day for life class. I'm so glad you came. So glad to have you back in the space, right? Yeah. And we cannot do life class this season in particular without our amazing in-studio audience. And a big up on yourself, please. Yes. And we have a surprise for you on the streets of Zoom. This week, we're also joined by Mr. Michael Nattoo, the poet himself. Welcome, Michael. How you do?
Thank you for having me. I'm good. I'm happy to be here.
I'm so glad to see you again. You were on several seasons before, Michael, and it's good to have you back. Michael Nattoo is a journalist and a poet, and he's going to be joining Noran in walking us through the conversation today about what men want. So for those in the audience who date men, are you ready for hear what am I say? Are you, okay, you're ready, right? So you have your notepads, okay, and your recording devices, because it's gonna be good, right? So welcome to all of our regular attendees in the streets of Zoom. We're so glad to have you. Please drop some love in the comments as usual. Audrey says our audio is much improved. We're glad to hear that. Sandra, welcome. Heather, Audrey, so much good energy all the way over there, wherever you're joining us from. Hi, Miriam. It's good to see all of you. All right, so I'm Kamala McWhinney. I'm an associate clinical psychologist and the host of the JN Life Class series. And every week I forget to introduce my personal self. So welcome again to class. We're going to kickstart our conversation. But before we do that, we like to launch our pre-class poll. Last week, no, Mr. Noran, we launched a poll to much controversy, Dania, because we're using the same questions that we did for the women last week. We're asking only the men to respond to the poll this week. Only the men respond to the poll because we want to hear what's going on for you all, right? So our first question is, how would you describe your current mood? So go ahead and answer them, please. We'd love to get all the voices of the men in the room in our poll, and we'll read the results in a short while. All right? And we're sending out a special call for Xavier. Xavier, are you with us this evening? We made quite an impression last week. So we want to bring back Xavier into the conversation. If you're in Zoom, please go ahead and drop a hail in the chat, right? Danae Pinnock is joining us from Turks and Caicos. And a big arrow, please. Make some noise for Danae. It's really good to have so many of our JN family members joining us from all the way across the waters. All right, so we're going to get into it now because we have 3 segments of Delicious Convo. And Dania, the topic says, what do men want? I am not a man. Neither are you. Okay, you checked. All right. So the first thing we want to level set for our conversation this evening is to ask Noran, since he's in studio between us both. Noran, talk to us, please. What do men want? Like, we're really curious.
All right, you have your list as what women want. We have our list.
Please proceed, sir, with the
Right.
list reading.
So, firstly,
Mhm,
respect from our partner.
mhm.
We want respect. We can dive into what respect means.
Oh, we're going to, yes.
We want love and affection.
Mhm,
We actually do strive for. We like to feel love. The same way you like to feel wanted and loved. We
mhm.
actually like that too, but I think we're able to live without it a little bit better than you guys can.
Dania, I feel your body language. Continue,
A little
Noran.
bit. We want peace. Now, I know that's the one that really gets under people's skin.
Mhm.
And I'll just say, we don't want constant fighting. We don't want constant strife. We don't want constant, what's the word I'm looking for? Aggression towards us. Now, even if the aggression is deserved or not, we don't want it.
I was coming right to the deservedness piece,
Whether we
but
deserve it or
continue.
not, we don't want it. We don't want, as we've grown up here in Nenge, or even more than that, we don't want everything to be a fight or an argument or discourse. And I know one of the problems is that what a woman might consider as argument may not what a man considers as argument.
And vice versa.
And vice versa. Sometimes just talk back or disagreement and the extending of a conversation. Not all the time some men want that.
Mhm.
So there are times when we want just be my peace or allow peace. And we definitely want to know that you care about this. Not if we grew up, man must be man must be tough. A lot of us still have that. And it is necessary, but we wouldn't mind a check-in every now and then, because you know what, at the end of the day, if we love you to a particular degree and we have a particular level of relationship, we do want that courtesy.
Mhm.
That, hey, how you doing? Are you really okay? Just go on like your business, as we like to say.
At least go on like.
But again, I think with men, we will respond differently based on the type of relationship we have with the particular woman.
Mhm.
So you're not necessarily going to get princess treatment with somebody you just like and fancy see. So everything is dependent, I think, with us on the level of relationship we have with them.
Mhm. And that is such a very loaded part of the conversation in Noran, which contributes to the confusion of many of us. But before me and Dania get on the business, right? Let me jump over to the poet. Michael, what do men want? Please fill us in.
Men need, we're addressing wants. So I'll start there. Men want three things primarily.
Wow. 3. Okay.
We want peace,
Mhm.
we want respect,
Mhm.
and we want accountability.
Really, Michael? Nattoo?
Yeah.
I am
Those-
shook. Men want accountability.
We do. We very much do want accountability. And as a matter of fact, it might be a surprise to many of the women listening, but we're not just talking about one-sided accountability here. We mean accountability across the board, because we are able to take that ourselves. So we want it from you too.
Okay, then. Michael, we have so much to talk about. But I see Deidre in the comment with the wide eye emoji, like accountability, right? We're not alone. Terrain is in the chat saying that women don't know our name, so I think he's referring to peace. So we have a lot to dissect tonight. Dania, we have our work cut out for us. But the poll results are up, and I cannot wait to get into it. All right. So the men said, as it relates to their mood, let me go through now. 92% of you are either okay, happy, or ecstatic. And we're glad to hear that. And for those who are not, as usual, we are hoping that our convo today can just lift up the spirits of the men who are with us. What do you want more of from partners in relationships? Here you know. 21% of men said better communication. 8% said greater financial security. All right. 11% said compatibility of values. 3% emotional availability. And 58% of you said all of the above. All right. Number 3, what do you want less of? 42% of the men, Dania, said infidelity of all kinds. 42%, right? 13% said poor boundaries from family and others. 29% said 29% said lack of clarity about life direction. Interesting. 16% said less resistance to doing emotional work. All right, number 4, what can you do less of to be more successful in relationships? Dania, let me tell you about this question. It's the last week. Only 5% of the women said nothing. And Steffon and Noran were not okay. Like indigestion and stomach upset, take them. Let's read the comments for the men. Life Class family, you remember last week? All right. To be more clear and realistic about my standards, 37% said that. 39% said unpack my past experiences and heal from them. I love that though. 13% said try to change and or control my partner. And Noran, read for me the number that you see on the screen. The number, the percentage of men who said nothing.
11% of men said, what can they do less of in a relationship? Nothing.
Nothing. And can you remind us of the number from last week for the
I
women?
think it was somewhere.
Your voice is so, I just want to hear your voice say it,
It
right?
was in the lower
Like how much?
5%.
Like
5%.
5%,
5%.
less than half, right?
5%.
What are you expecting from this class? A chance to honestly reflect on my standards and adjust as needed. 16% of you said that. I'm glad to hear that. 55% of them, Dania, Noran, and Michael, are here for tools for how to have healthy relationships. So we have our work cut out for us. 21% said tips on how to have healthier communication patterns in particular. And 8% said getting balanced feedback from, sorry, that should be from women, so that we can bridge the gap. And that was 8% of our men. Thank you to all of you for pouring into the poll. I am so intrigued to hear how the rest of the conversation go, right? Michael, are you surprised by any of these statistics?
I'm not. It sounds just about right to me, actually.
Okay.
Sounds just about right.
All right, sir. Noran, any shockers there for you?
No.
No. Okay. So Michael said, and somebody created the acronym already, the RAP. Men want RAP. Men want to rap with us. They want respect, accountability. Somebody in the audience is not okay, right? You're not okay. Respect, accountability, and peace. And that peace, and so Noran said peace as well, and Noran also mentioned respect. And in addition to that, Noran said love and affection, which I think sometimes women forget, Dania. You think so too? Yes. And Noran also mentioned the absence of the aggression, yeah, and a higher level of, also just good energy, lack of strife, and also care, consideration for the fact that men are human beings too, not just playing a role. Go on like your business. That's what we're coaching.
Exactly.
Go on like your business, right? So my first reflection point for the men, because Dania, we are all back out of respect, yeah? Make we create some peace in the room to start. Segment 2, we can get rowdy, right? But to start off, the communication of these needs, Noran, I think confuses a lot of women.
Right.
Because sometimes I don't know if men know what they want, or I don't know if men are in tune with their needs enough to communicate it in a way that makes sense to
Does
us.
that sound familiar?
No, not right
No,
now.
not right now. Okay. Well, across the board, I think both genders, there are a large segment of us that probably don't know exactly what we want. So we'll muddle around until we find what feels nice. Terrible. And you are in the other group, and that's very good. But just on a numbers basis, trying to be general, a lot of us, we know what we think we want, but we are more willing to say, all right, let me work with that. I don't like that, but the rest of it is okay. So there's a lot of hit and miss. It's like whack-a-mole a lot of times with both men and women in terms of, I will settle for this for the most part until I don't like it anymore. Then I start complaining and doing whatever. But I think men know what we definitely know what we want. We don't always communicate it, as you said. There are a lot of men that will actually communicate because there are some things coming from when we were younger that we do carry with us. And I will say it out loud, there are times when we grew up hearing that if you're showing your feelings,
Straight up.
girl thing, soft thing, not using it as an excuse. No one, it's not an excuse, not even a justification, but it's an explanation. But there are some men who do communicate. The problem is that sometimes when they communicate and they're not willing to bend, that becomes a problem. Because let's be very honest, a lot of us were raised that the woman is to be happy. Everything is about making her happy. And
Happy wife.
even before wife, everything is done to get to getting her affection. That's how we were raised. Along the line, we may divert depending on our experiences, but for the most part, we were told that the woman must be made happy and comfortable.
And that's like a measure of value.
If she rates you, especially publicly, then you're doing a good job. But sometimes we're doing this, and what we're getting back is, you want a prize? I'm still here, I'm with you. So it depends on the person that you are with, but it's very difficult for men sometimes to communicate, because saying it the way we want to say it might have a negative effect. Shouldn't stop us, but sometimes it does. Just being realistic, it does sometimes.
Fair, right, Dania? Fair-ish. Ish.
Yeah.
Can I ask our tech team to just shift over this box for us so that I can look at Michael's face? Michael, so what are your thoughts now to my prompt about the ways in which men communicate, right? Or sometimes not so much about what they need?
All right, so in terms of how men communicate, I don't think we need any codex. I don't think we need a translator. I don't think we need anything of the sort. The problem is we communicate just as simply as everyone else. The issue that we have is when we do communicate, we are told that, no, you don't actually want that. That's not what you need, you know? So when we say peace, that word tends to get under a lot of people's skin.
A trigger.
And it's a trigger word. And so when we do these things, when we use these words and we say, and a woman says, what do you want? And we say, we want peace. What do you mean? We want peace. What is peace? You know, what does peace look like to us? So there's this idea that when a man simply says something, when a man says something that is direct and to the point, it's shrugged off because, you know, we have a reputation of not knowing what we want. So the reputation comes before the understanding. A lot of times,
very good point.
Yeah, a lot of times when we communicate specifically what we want, it's like there's this filter of, you are a man. Therefore, what you say you want isn't exactly what you want. Right? And I think that gets a lot of men, and I think that a lot of women seem to, a space that they seem to abide in is, you know, once I don't cheat, I'm a good partner. I'm a solid partner because I don't cheat. But
that's what you think the women are saying?
That's a lot of that's what the experience is a lot of the time. Because when we say we want this and we communicate it, and you don't acquiesce or you don't make space to accommodate that conversation, you find that women tend to go back to the fact that, yo, I am loyal in this relationship. So you bringing up peace is something that complicates the issue, because when we make certain demands, oh yeah, that is rooted in you know, you are being complacent. There's work that you need. The whataboutism. Like, I need peace. Well, why don't you make me happier and you'll get peace?
So, Michael, I said Dania took a deep breath, so I know she's ready to respond to that. Come through, Dania.
Okay, so I listened to
Yes.
Noran and to Michael, and this peace scenario is not creating war for me, but I want to know peace under what circumstances, because I don't have an issue with you wanting peace. I know that sometimes on a Saturday, man just want to watch them football or whatever it is. You watch cricket, tennis, whatever, you know, want nobody really talk to you in your zone. I'm fine with that because I'm kind of like that too. But sometimes I find that men bring up this peace conversation in situations where I'm having a problem and you want me to be peaceful because you don't want to handle the problem, and there will be no peace where that is concerned. As a matter of fact, there will be war. So it is peace under what circumstances? Explain to me, Noran and Michael. I need examples.
Please, because the audience is in their feelings right now.
I'm referring to is not the piece that you just described, but I thank you for describing that because it gives context. The piece I'm referring to is, if you're not, as the woman, if we are doing something and I'm not doing it your way, because in your mind, this is the right way, and it would only make sense to do it this way because that seems logical. And I, as an individual, said, no, I want to do it that way. And your movement is to speak to me and continuously question me and have this conversation, because really what you want is for me to do it your way, which means you haven't stopped for 1 second to realize I am actually an individual and I feel like doing it this way. Why is that not okay? But in your mind, you're being efficient and you want it to be done this way and you think it's the right way, but you don't stop and say, well, he wants to do it that way still. And when you continuously go around and around because you're trying to get me to see it your way, I can understand what you're saying. I don't accept it, but I can understand it. And for that not being okay, for you to continue having the dialogue, that's the piece I'm referring to.
And this is why communication is important, because I was never thinking about it that way.
And Michael is going to come through with a point on this now.
Right. I was just going to, and I agree with everything Noran said. And I understand your plight, Dania. You know, when you want to communicate something at a particular time, you want it no. But what I'd simply say to that is, you know, time and place. And this is an element of peace that is underrated. You see, a relationship needs space to breathe, literally.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when you feel like you need to have a conversation, no, we are not saying no, we don't want to have that conversation. We're saying not yet.
Mm-hmm.
And when we do that, the takeaway is that we are trying to sort of shut you down, shut you out under the guise of wanting peace, when that is not the case. A lot of men are very willing to have these difficult conversations.
Mm-hmm.
A man would prefer to know that his woman is not troubled. And so when you are troubled, we know that is counterproductive to the peace that we want. Mm-hmm. Because like you said there, when you don't have when you don't have a resolution to that problem that you want, it's going to create chaos for us. So it's in our best interest to see to it that we address the chaos that you are experiencing. But sometimes we want to say, just hold on, get a break. I understand how you are feeling now, but let's revisit this conversation at another time. And so where our reputation comes up, and where our reputation comes up, I see the expression, but where our reputation, where I did, where our reputation comes up to haunt us is a lot of women, they don't necessarily interpret even patience in the way that we do. Because when we say, all right, just wait, for them, it's an issue of the sky is falling. We need to address this right now. The sky is falling and you need to address it right now. And oftentimes, the urgency with which you approach some of these arguments, with some of these situations, often serve to alienate you further from your partner. Because no, when we are saying just wait, and you are pressing, no, we are no longer interested in communicating with you. We are going to be communicating at you. As a matter of fact, a lot of men tend to zone you out. And so when you feel like, you are taking that space and you feel like, this means war, you have to listen to me right now. Even if you don't want to have that conversation, you are going to have it. The man will simply allow you to talk, but there will not be a resolution. There will only be the illusion of it.
Oh, child. The poet come through strong in the last piece, right? So Michael, Dania and I were really exchanging looks of in what universe is this happening? Because there are so many, you just put it into words very clearly, Dania, and in a very mature way, Michael. Ladies in the audience, is this your experience that men are so clear and so measured when they're not ready to have the conversation? Say it louder.
No.
You hear them, Michael?
No.
And I'm not influencing them. This is their honest opinion, right?
But I wanted to ask Daniel something. When Michael was speaking, he made a point about the sky is falling. Now, as a woman, are there times when you want something done right now because it's urgent to you, and you bypass the notion that it might not be urgent to the man?
I don't bypass, but I need timelines. So
clarity.
Yeah. When Michael was talking, that's something that came to me where I don't have a problem. I'd like you to have the conversation right now, using the example that we've been using. I want the conversation right now. Let me tell you, Noran and Michael, I'm not a patient woman. I'm not. it's something that I don't even know if I'm working on, but I just know I'm not a
Do
patient.
you
She's
really
so honest.
expect-
That's why we bring
do you
her here.
expect patience when dealing with him?
No, not really.
Not
Because
really is not no.
I'm a quick pace person. But if it is that you're not on my pace and frequency, we need timelines. And let me tell you, I'm emotional about it because we lose one whole relationship over the something here. Where if you're not going to talk to me about whatever it is or deal with what we're dealing with, you can't just tell me to hold on a minute. Soon. What is soon? When you're going to talk to me? Like, because when?
All right. So again, you admitted that you are an impatient
No, I'm
person.
not.
And I'm not saying that if it's urgent to you, that he can't take a second to, listen to you. But when I am ready.
This is the battle of the sexes right here,
When I'm
right?
ready. Okay, understand this. Not getting something in the timeline you want, it does not mean I don't care about you.
But no, I'm not asking for the timeline I want it. I want a
A
timeline.
Oh,
timeline.
you want a timeline?
Ah,
And I said to you, honey, I'm not in the headspace right now to talk about this.
Friday?
We'll deal with it.
When?
Again,
When, Nora?
so the when is so important.
Yeah.
Because you need it and you can't do without the when. And what happens if you don't get it?
If I'm not going to get it, I want to know that I'm not going to get it.
Oh.
Because then I'm going to have another plan.
All right.
And I'm not saying that well.
No,
Like all
no,
the women
no.
are agreeing.
One second, Mike, just before Mike jumps in, I want all the ladies to understand this. He said something earlier about talking to and talking at. I think a lot of times, both men and women, but we're speaking about women right now, get a handle on exactly being able to differentiate those two, because you might think you're talking to me, but your tone, your posture, everything is coming at. Now, face it, if we were to speak to you as a woman like that, you would not like it. Because the first thing you're going to say is, I'm a child, don't speak to me like that. Understand that a lot of times you speak to us like we're children. And before we react, we say, you know what? I'll talk to you later.
Dania,
I don't think that was difficult to understand.
no, Michael, I don't mean about Michael, no, we just don't want to. We just don't want to go there right now.
Sometimes you speak to us because the urgency is not being met. And because you are trying to get this out, what you don't realize is that suddenly you're speaking at us as if we are children. We are not. The same way you would not like me to say, Dania, come under the thing now because I need to. You're gonna say, whoa, 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 whoa.
Lower the volume.
Bring down some of that bass.
The bass. Take it down.
Recognize when you are also doing it. So when a lot of times, this doesn't go for every man. This is something. When you see your man looking at you while you're talking to him, and his eyes start to squint just a little bit, and he leans back in his chair, and before he speaks, he says, hold on now. And that little eyebrow goes up, he is being very patient, because he probably wants to say, I'm not your son, I'm not your daughter, I'm not your office employee, don't speak to me, sir. But saying it sometimes is going to come with aggression, and once aggression hits,
But
we
why
have
does it
lost our
create
way.
aggression? Because you can say that to me though, because I like Michael's pointing out where the clarity, the peace, they tell me what you want. I want to know it. But why you can't just say it? So say it to me, then I don't like when you talk to me like that. You have to go give me a moment because right now,
I'd love if he was to do that. If he doesn't, is there any part of you based on the relationship you're having with the person that can say, okay, something is going on here, and then bypass whatever it was to say, there's something more, but you can't say, you know what? Let me just make us see where I'm going to be.
So hold on, stick a pin because Michael is literally over there, like
Sorry, man. Sorry.
almost having heart failure to come in, right?
No, I think, just listening to both of you, and I completely get it, I understand. And when you are dealing with an impatient partner, and in this specific case, Dania, as you mentioned, an impatient woman, that complicates things, right? And so there's an argument to be made about, understanding, compatibility between you and your partner, like how you choose to address conflicts or differences, right? Because if I'm a man who prides myself on being patient and on taking action when necessary, this is why it's important to have these conversations with someone before you get to the point of a relationship. Because no, I can't fault you, Dania, for being an impatient woman, because that's who you are.
And she tell you upfront, right?
And she told me up front. So if I'm in that situation, there is some compromise to be made. However, compromise is a burden to be shared between both people in the relationship.
Preach, sir, preach.
Compromise isn't, I need to have this conversation now, so let's have this now. That's not compromise. Compromise is, this is what I want. Where are you? How can we find a middle ground? That middle ground, as you mentioned, Dania, is a timeline. Is you saying, all right, if we can't have that conversation now, when can we? And then the man can either say, all right, give me a time to just recalibrate and everything. And ultimately, I also feel it comes down to a very simple thing as well. A lot of women hear the word wait, but it's pronounced to them as no.
Somebody turn off Michael mic. Turn it off, please.
Preach, man, preach.
Yeah. Yeah, wait is no to a lot of women. So I just wanted to get that thing, but continue.
So I tell you,
I'm not okay, everybody.
there
I'm
are
not
times
okay.
when if you don't get it when you want it, you get upset, you get impatient, and somehow that trickles down into you questioning how much I actually care about you. We don't know when that leapfrog happened, but it's just not right now.
So stick a pin, because I see so many comments in the chat that Michael is an anomaly, right? So a lot of women are saying, Michael and Noran, this is not the way the men that we are, looking into their eyes. This is not the way. Where are they? Where are they located? Yeah. And I saw a very interesting comment from B Coke, and B Coke said, can you scroll up a little bit? She said, it's true. When I change how aggressive, I know I'm never want you to see it, true. Go up a little more.
She said, when I change her whole.
When she changes her tone and she's less aggressive, she gets a better outcome pretty much. So I just want to amplify. Here it is. I find when I stop pushing, ladies, and take a less aggressive approach when dealing with my husband, I get him to do a lot more things my way. So it's a strategy, right?
It's not really a strategy. We will do it your way a lot of the times because we just care about arguing more. Honestly, it's not, it may not sound, adult and mature, but sometimes for a peaceful life,
just giving.
And it's not like we feel like we're giving up a rib cage to do this thing. It's just that it's not all the time we want to do it at the same time. And what we'd like, honestly, is some appreciation of the fact that, okay, I want it done now. If you can't do it now, but as you said, don't leave me out in limbo. And I agree with you. Don't leave me out in limbo as a way to hopefully make the conversation stop or change the topic. But at the same time, that patience you have to be very careful, because you can't want somebody to be patient while you're an impatient person with them. You can't demand patience and understanding if you are drilling 5,000 miles an hour, and the minute he is deciding, oh, I'm not into it now, it's a problem. So equity is very important.
And also, I agree with the point. I'm going to balance the thing, right? Despite my gender, I'm going to balance it, because the fact of the matter is that on the other end of it, responsiveness and consideration is also what we want to amplify in this conversation, because sometimes it's actually a very real psychological phenomenon. Whenever, for example, children don't feel heard, what do? They get loud.
Louder.
And adults as well, when we don't feel like somebody's hearing us, we get loud, we get big in the room.
Yes.
So sometimes it's a pattern that has built up over time, don't it? Where you feel like you keep on asking for this, and you're not getting it. And then when you do go to a higher decibel now, Dania, your ear now say, oh man, a problem, and this and that. But I also think it goes back very properly to Michael's point about choosing the right partners. So I mean, to be honest, sometimes we never choose good from morning. And sometimes we're now in the middle of the relationship trying to get this person to be more responsive, when from day one, we have to start them to respond to a text message.
Hence Michael's term, accountability.
And we can't wait for jumping in that part there, because that's a thing. There was a comment from Trudy and Mulgrave, who is in the audience, but one of my faves in the audience. Can I just scroll up to Trudy's comment? Because I saw someone saying, talk through Trudy. And I just want to see what Trudy had said. Trudy said, up a little more, here we go. Listening, both parties are very clear on what they want, but I believe the problem is who they want it from. Amen. People we choose to be in a relationship with most times indicate from very early that as a person, they're not able nor willing, in my mind, to give to the core of what is needed. But those on the receiving end are caught up in the external factors, such as the looks,
Thank you,
the
truly.
status, and the
Yes.
lifestyle, etc.
Very good point.
Very good point. Yeah.
Let me just jump in and say, I'm not sure if of this whole opposites attract thing,
True.
because I'm very outspoken, I'm very impatient, and I don't like to look for things. That's my three things. Yeah, man.
Explain the third one.
I don't like look for things, like if you know they're right in front of me, we start get flustered if we can't find it.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but a man who is the opposite of that is always attracted to me. So a quiet man, patient man, man who likes to look for things, is dead man there, and I'm just like, I'm upfront. I say how I am. You're the opposite of me, and we're trying to make it work. Maybe I need to try something else.
Michael has a word for us.
Yeah, I do. So, you know, in my experience, I've come to realize that little phrase has been incomplete, and it started me for the longest while, you know, while people haven't given it the attention it needs. Because if you look at it, it's an incomplete sentence. And I've realized that opposites attract, but opposites attract problems. That's what they attract.
A full rock of ages.
Listen, man, I want the autograph.
But Michael does have a book.
Say it again. Sir.
Michael
Say
has
it
a book,
again.
so we need him. We need a book.
Say mute him.
Mute him.
Say it again, Michael.
Yeah, man, that's it. That's it.
Opposites
Opposites definitely attract.
Michael?
Opposites attract problems. That's what they attract.
Opposites attract problems.
But
3
why
words
do
that the
they-
code is
I will
cracked.
say this. I will say this for men. For some men, everything is some. There is no all.
Yeah, there's
term.
Yes.
To get that clear. There are some men who will go for the woman that probably doesn't work for them just for the simple sake of, I was able to forgive the word, tame.
The conquest. Yep.
But guess what? They'll still try.
Dania.
The same way a woman will try to change a man to suit her. There are times when a man will try to he will just go and lyrics and talk and no man, let's spend time just to know that he got you. And when he does,
Sayonara.
it's the dog chasing the car.
And the
Touch
audience
car,
has
what
got
dog will
very
do?
quiet. Yeah.
So there are some men that do that. So and they may, but they still try, don't they? As
They
you
still
said,
try.
those are the ones that keep going.
Yeah.
So that is related to ego. Ego is a very strong notion in men in general. Worse when it comes to relationships and interpersonal relationships with women. Ego is very tall. Not everybody is ruled by their ego. There's always a little ego somewhere thrown in.
Wow.
So maybe we need to check that with the socialization of this whole taming of the shrew,
Yes, please.
because it's not been very successful.
A lot of
Causing
things. That
problems, Michael.
yeah.
Well, the word that some of you ladies use is train. So we say tame, you say train. It's a horrible thing to do to
Oh,
another
yeah.
person.
I'm not interested, it's so much work.
Both are not ideal. Neither is ideal. Kelly Francis says, my husband and I are completely opposite and it works for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we're going to ask Noran to just speak up. Dania, we need to change her mic. Just bring it up closer. Okay, got it. So sometimes, I mean, Dr. Carpenter, who has been on the show before, speaks about how opposites attract, but it is similarities that kind of anchor us for the long term. And then I think a spin-off to that is that for some things, opposites attracting is sexy. It's intriguing. It gives you a buzz.
Challenging.
But for the major bones of like, how do I want to live my life? Then we need similarity to keep us together. You understand? So I'll never forget Carla was talking about that opposites attracting. And Carla says, for example, on my value system, she bonfire upon everything that is not, not upful living, as she likes to say. She says she could never marry somebody or be with somebody who are like them out by conflict diamond, because she is into Bondong Babylon and all things that are not righteous. She could not be in that space because core values don't align. For many other things, I think we can make it work if we're opposites. But for the important things, I think there needs to be similarity for sure. And Sam says it complementary strengths attract. Yeah.
I like that, yes. And respect is always the cement foundation has to be respect, because we might be opposites, but I still respect you I think a big problem when we get into relationships is that sometimes we forget that it's two individuals in one relationship. Those individuals still have their own columns that they work. Sometimes they cross with yours, sometimes they don't. In the instances where it doesn't cross, that is when the test of the relationship starts, because if I don't like going to spend time with family on a Sunday to eat dinner, and you're all about Sunday family like blue bloods, and I say I don't want to go, are you going to be upset with me because I didn't go?
Maybe
When you come back
personally?
home, am I going to get attitude for 2-3 days because I can't believe all you had to do was just go? I didn't want to, and I told you why. Why is that not enough? Why is it not okay?
No, I feel like for me, a lot of what I have issues with men about is how you communicate. Because I think that I'm one of the most understanding people. Like, if you not like it, you not like it. Tell me say you not like it. You see, if you go come and you never want to come, and then you not socialize when you're there, at that time you have problems. It's better you tell me I didn't want to come and you don't come and I bring home leftovers for you. But if you say, yeah, come, make sure so you're committed to the process. That's how I am.
So stick a pin. I'm seeing some good questions in the comment section. I'm going to ask us to drop them in the Q&A box because Andrea, I want us to talk about your question as well. So drop it in the Q&A and we're going to pull it up in a few minutes. Before we move into segment 2, we have a giveaway. But before the giveaway, I want to even touch a little tips on the issue of accountability. Yes, because Michael said it, that men want accountability. And I don't believe this to be true, but I am here to learn from the good sirs this evening. As a completely sidebar comment, somebody in the comments said, side note, Michael has beautiful skin. Just want to amplify that.
Okay, Michael with the beautiful skin. Michael with the beautiful skin.
But give us a context of accountability first,
Yes.
and then we go into the explanation.
So Michael, accountability like, oh, talk to it, please.
You know, I've realized that, so to sum up that and then to get into it, I think, and my experience has reinforced that women and accountability, we love you, women. Let me just put that out there first.
I'm nervous, Michael.
Women and accountability are like oil and water.
Wow, we feel the same way about men though. What continue? That's why we're here battling, right?
Right. And so a lot of the times when we have certain problems or when men bring up certain issues that they have, right? We are made to feel like a lot of these issues that we have are imaginary in nature. Because when we bring them to the fore and we say, this is what you did, and we don't appreciate this, we are met with, you know, I didn't do that, or, you know, stuff like that. I didn't do that. What are you talking about? And this is how it went. And then a lot of the times we are gaslit. A lot of the times we are there to sit and to think about things like, yo, did she really do that? Because now I'm starting to question myself. Because I know that I was in a space where I was troubled emotionally, and I thought about it. And one thing I can speak for me personally, but before I bring up an issue, I make sure to make certain observations for a period of time. Because I understand. Yeah, I gather my facts.
A knife to a gunfight.
Yeah, I gather my facts because I want to be sure, because I understand there is an issue with perception and reality when it comes down to problems in a relationship. And it's not everything that looks like a problem is a problem. And some things that don't look like a problem are problems. And I feel what happens is when the relationship is in its infancy, there is an overwhelming flow of desire. So desire tends to dull your senses. You don't necessarily pay attention to the things that really affect you, to the values, because you are being driven by desire, but desire inevitably wanes and it takes effort to get it back. The thing that drives you to pursue that effort is you know, the love and the respect that you build throughout that phase. But we often see these things as two separate, you know, the idea of wanting to address a problem and the idea of wanting to deepen love. Because I've had partners where their idea of having a conflict-free relationship is completely ignoring the problem. So the problem does not exist if you don't address it. The moment you address the problem, you breathe life into it. Sometimes we need to understand that we have to balance that. We have to seriously have these conversations. And so in that breath, when we say accountability, what we are saying is, when I bring up an issue, try to validate what I'm saying, validate my experience, validate my feelings on it, and then you can tell me whether or not my feelings are consistent with what the reality of the situation is, or what your reality of the situation is. And we oftentimes don't get that, and that's why I feel like accountability isn't necessarily big for a lot of women.
Michael, here is where I am at the moment. So first of all, welcome back, Xavier, right? I'm not agreeing with some of your sentiments, but welcome back. Stacey and Thompson said in the chat that what Michael is describing, she has experience with many males, both in intimate and platonic spaces, right? So I feel like a lot of us are also over here, Michael saying, as women, we're saying ditto, 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 right? The gaslighting, oh my gosh, right? Sometimes the preference to not name something, like just don't tell me I'm not doing this well, just period. I have observed that, unfortunately. I can't even say most, but some men are very much like allergic to accountability as well. So the two sides them have a point here.
We are bad on both sides.
We are bad on both sides.
And the accountability sometimes refers to, if you're doing so, wrong and strong is a national language in Jamaica.
Yes,
As
it
far as
is.
Wrong and strong. And accountability honestly relates to wrong and strong. If you've done something, maybe you were a little emotional, maybe you know you were wrong, it just felt like being in your feelings, and it caused a trickle-down effect of something else.
Mm-hmm.
We would love, even if you say, you know what, I know I was being wrong, but I was just in my feelings and I had to get it out. That wasn't the intention. I'm sorry. That we will reset the plate. Reset. We're good. We're good. But just have enough
Michael, a clap.
womanly
Michael, stop
attitude to say, listen, I'm upset at you. Maybe I don't have to be as upset as I am, but I'm in my feelings. So you know what? Yes, I'm mad at you. And that's why I did what I did.
Let me just do a quick poll.
Conversation.
Let me just do a quick poll, Noran. Ladies, oh that song, what Noran just said a while ago.
When you know you're wrong,
Silence.
pin drop.
You know, I don't have issues with that.
Thank you.
I don't have issues with that because I will tell you that I was in my feelings and that's why I'm going the way home. Go on. But what I have issues with the accountability statement, Michael, is that the tit for tat in that type of situation, where when you're asking me to be accountable, if I don't agree with the particular situation, you say, what warm to the time when, hey. Michael, Noran.
What about
Sam dropped something in the chat, right? Sam said the number of mantrums. Whoa, the number of mantrums on a regular basis. I think the wrong sex is being classified as overly emotional. And the people that finish the sentence in the audience, right? Michael, you wanted to come in here because I get very heated on the set right now. The battle is raging.
No, so the wrong set is classified as being overly emotional. And here we have a textbook example of what happens when you invalidate a man's feelings. Because here we are trying to express these things and we're saying what we need to have, or our progression towards a solution to the problem is ideally, because we have to understand that our ideas are not necessarily, we can't necessarily impose our ideas on relationships. So the problem that we encounter is, and Noran alluded to it, Noran pointed it out, is that we need you to say, I did this and I did this because what, and I own this particular behavior. And so I would like us to address this and we move on to the reason why. So we are seeing you say, all right, I did this because of this, and not say, like you mentioned, Dorian, what about when you did this, or what about we just need you to say, because a lot of times in relationships, when you are having conflicts, both things can be true at the same time.
That part, Michael.
You both can have valid growth. You both can have valid positions where you're coming from. But I believe that the person who gets the privilege of holding you accountable is the person who brings up the issue first. It doesn't mean that you won't get an opportunity, you know, but you both can't be addressing something at the same time. So if I come to you and I say, this is what I have a problem with.
That's right.
Don't bring up something that you have a problem with that I did. Own that, and then after we have that conversation, you can say, all right, babe, we've talked about this, but I'd like to hear this out, and this is something that I have a problem with. And this notion.
Want to hear what Michael said?
Is it tit for tat on is a human emotion that unfortunately gets in the way a lot of the times.
Yeah.
And I'd like to comment on the whole issue about, you know, men being overly emotional. I believe we are branded that way when we try to match the level of emotion that a woman displays in a relationship.
No, Michael.
My experience.
Respectfully, immediately, no.
Hold on. Allow me to further clarify what I mean.
Thank you kindly.
Right. Sometimes when we decide that we want to own the emotions that we're experiencing, because a lot of times, or in general, men are ready to suppress a lot of things, right? We suppress a lot of our emotions. Sometimes when we are angry, or we are sad, or we are depressed, we don't communicate those things because one Noran mentioned earlier, they either somewhat are seen as emasculating because, yo, you are experiencing these emotions like man up, you know? But when we decide that we want to use up a lot of the emotional bandwidth in the relationship, we are seen as over emotional. And that's not the case. What we are simply trying to do is to a space that is predominantly occupied because of how we were raised. We are socialized to allow you that space. We often view the emotional as the role of the woman in the relationship. But when we want to say, all right, let me take a bit of that space and try to move through it. Let me use up some of that emotional bandwidth and tell you that I cried last night, that I felt really depressed, that I felt like I couldn't talk to you about something and I had to talk to a friend or a stranger. When we do those things, even if they are taken in that instance, somehow we typically find ourselves in a space where you can't be indulging in these emotions too much. Like at some point you are going to have to man up. And that's what I mean when I say, when we try to use up that emotional bandwidth, we are seeing as being overly emotional. When that's not the case, we just need some relief. Because if you not listen to it, we're going to find somebody else who will listen to it.
Okay, so Michael, I hear you, and you have so much support from some of the men in the chat. And your point is valid. Like what you just said is valid, period, right? I think, go up a little bit for me, where somebody was talking about the get out of jail free card.
Yeah, so
That is where the issue comes in, where sometimes, here it is. The issue is that emotional is thrown about as a get out of jail free card for men to invalidate what women say. And that is the other extreme or another angle in my mind of it, where sometimes, as somebody said it earlier, we don't even think about anger as an emotion because it's more acceptable. And so when women are sad, you know, feeling whatever other emotional experiences we're having, we hear that we're too emotional. Or when sometimes the men are doing a lot or the most, but it looks different and it's so there's base. We hear that, well, I'm not being emotional, you're being emotional.
Right.
And then there is that invalidation that comes forth as well.
And the notion that growing up, men are more rational and women are more emotional. That whole narrative, when it comes out in arguments that, oh, the only reason why you're going to because you're emotional. And then when you're going to ask me, oh, you depend your period or your PMS, kill me, I go kill you. Like, I just went kill you.
No violence.
Not real death, but I'm saying that narrative that we put out there because I want the man to tell me that he's feeling depressed. Yes. I want you to tell me that you did cry last night. Like, I want that from you. I want to love you up and I want to hug you up and say, I'm here for you. But when you're sitting over there, so going like you're tough man and you're stonewall and you're not saying nothing.
So
preaching good.
I hear what you're saying and I understand why you want it, because that's how you connect to the man. I understand. If you're with a gentleman, and this is for the ladies who might be in a situation, if you're with a gentleman who is not expressive or was never allowed to show any kind of thing, and as Xavier said, some people call it weakness, whatever the case may be, how do you deal with that man? If you want him to release and thing, and he's like, I'm good. I'm good. Even though you know I'm not good, but him give it a little hand squeeze, I'm good. Don't push further. Don't always push. Sometimes you might need to push through because maybe you see that it's affecting him in such a way that it could be dangerous for him. But the other times when you see him sitting down, there are a million things going on up here. And he's processing and filing and doing a lot of things. And you might see him go watch a football game or talk to him, but doesn't mean he's still not good. But he's putting it in this.
Why can't he communicate it?
Because
and I don't need everything all at once.
Okay.
But why can't you communicate that to me? Because let me tell you, see the pushing, I don't push for very long. Remember the impatience? So if I'm good. I know that squeeze the way I talk about, come and get it millions of times. I'm good, this is me.
You're gone.
Retreat.
I'm gone. I'm gone. And I'm sorry about a relationship that I have been in where I actually said to the man, don't make me stop ask you if you're all right. Because in myself, I knew that I had my timeline for when you're not talking to me. No, as I said, I was sorry for leaving that relationship the way I did, but I also know how I am. And I felt like I was not being validated with, I have a timeline on me not being good too. And this is not good for me.
Then if you have to go, then you might have to go.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Just to go on Dania's point just now, it's what you just mentioned, what you just described is essentially the essence of what we were saying earlier, that when we say wait, we're not saying no, we're saying not right now. And that's the difference. And I feel like there's, if you are an impatient partner, there is, hold on, I'm not hearing, are you hearing me?
Yeah, we're
hearing you.
Okay, so I'm saying if you are an impatient partner, everybody likes to feel in a relationship, that they are being fought for. And sometimes a man is not stonewalling to get attention, but sometimes what you interpret as stonewalling is us trying to make sense of the chaos in our heads. And so instead of subjecting you to that process outwardly, we're saying, all right, give us some time. Let us sort through these emotions, and then we can come to you in a manner that is more coherent, and that if you are interested in aiding in finding a solution for that problem, then we can discuss the issues in a more coherent manner, and you can see, oh, so this is why you've been acting this way, and this is why you are the way you are. But when you decide that you need to leave, that there is a point, and I don't know what that limit is for you, Dania, but when some people have a point where people tend to put the limits on people's emotions, because when people put limits on how long somebody is supposed to grieve for, people put limits on how long somebody is allowed to be sad for. And so when you have all these things, they create that space of invalidation. And when you have that invalidation and you decide that you want to take yourself away from it, that might be in your self-interest, but for the man, we're looking at it that, all right, we were when we then come out of the fog in our heads,
we probably come right
only
to
us. It's only us because our partner left a long time ago because she felt like I took too long to figure it out. And so she's gone. And so what that man does is, you know what? The next time I'm having these issues, I'm going to suppress them. Because the next time I don't want to come out of my storm and realize that I'm alone. And that's what happens most of the time.
So Michael, again, I hear you. However, the situations do not play out exactly the way you're saying in multiple cases. And Thompson said it in the chat. She said, if what you're saying is what you're feeling, then use words. But a part of the challenge is that a lot of men don't use words. So for example, here's an example. And I want the men to give me a feedback as to whether or not you would want this from your partner. So I was in a space, in a coaching space, and somebody came in 1 week and was celebrating their win based on what we were talking about in the previous weeks. She said she was in a space with her partner and something happened, Noran, and she wasn't okay. Our vibes broke. And, you know, we start to get a little quiet and sulky and, you know, non-expressive. And her partner kept saying to her, baby, all right, you sure you're right? Yeah, man, all right, man. And then she remembered the coaching space and she said, actually, I'm not okay, but I'm not ready to talk about it yet. Would that be something that you as men want more of from us as women?
I think so, yes.
A same thing we are asking. Identical.
No, and
Mirror.
I understand. The world being 50-50 man-woman would be a fantastic world.
Why can't it not be so?
The reality is it's not. Everybody has their own things that they're dragging behind them. Sometimes a man, when he's feeling his way, he wants to deal with it by himself. It's not that we don't rate.
And Noran, we're in agreement, and all we're saying is tell me that
you want to deal with
good
yourself.
girl,
all
I
right,
need a minute.
Way early up in the chat, somebody was saying that women want men to be mind readers. I don't think I may be misquoting them, but that mind reading issue is a problem across both genders.
Yes.
Because one, I don't necessarily want to be a mind reader. I shouldn't have to be a mind reader, and that goes both ways, but I should still be able to read you. If I'm in a bona fide relationship with you, I'm supposed to be able to read you. So your impatience and just use the words. There should be times when you say, although I want the words, my sister something I want, Bill. But not Bill meaning I'm going to run away and it's all right, I'm done, my quota full. But more like, give him some time, because I will tell you this about men. I'm speaking about myself, maybe some other men will agree. You see, we come to you, or we come home, or we're in your presence, and immediately we're going to shut down. But you see, if we come inside and you actually just leave within 2 minutes, we're under your arm. Walk on, baby. All right, everything cool. Because there are times when we need to sort out ourselves and then we come to you. We love the appreciation. And I'm saying I love the care and attention. And even though that is care, what you're doing, the way it's delivered might have a counterproductive effect.
Noran, if I'd add, I think ultimately the essence of that is we don't want to be fighting the world and to be fighting a war when we come home.
And
Or a castle is supposed to be a sanctuary. And I understand that women, and a lot of times we don't speak to each other with understanding or take the effort to really see that we need the same thing. A lot of times we genuinely want the same thing from relationships, but the fact that we are championing or individual causes above, the relationship, it leads to conflict. Like if we say, and just like you have reinforced, Kamala, when you say women want the same things, if we are in a war and we realize that, wait, is this what you believe in too? And I say, yeah, this is what I believe in. And I say, oh, but that's what I believe in also. A war done.
True.
But a lot of times we want to be first past the post. We want to say, yo, I need my needs met first. We are not interested in finding out whether or not our needs are compatible, or whether or not we're fighting for the same things, because a lot of times we're in relationships where our partners are secretly our competitors. They want what they want out of us before we get what we want.
Absolutely.
Michael, you hit a nail right there, right on the head. So a lot of truth was spoken, and just based on the comments alone, what I'm hearing, I think Life Class production team, we need to do a segment at some point in the future talking about when needs compete or when needs clash. Because that's what I'm hearing. Because Michael is saying sometimes we need space. And I hear us on this side saying, we get that, but just tell us when you need that space.
Because I need it too.
Yeah.
I need the space, I need the peace.
Yeah,
I just need the communication.
The communication. Absolutely.
So
we are right up on a break.
Okay. All
Right up on a break, right? And we soon come back because we have to give away something because this is the JN Life Class, right? So we have an Amazon gift card for the first person in the chat, the virtual audience, who can correctly tell us what was the date when the first episode of season 4 went live. So we are 7 episodes in. What was the date? Oh my God, Kelly said August 3. That's not right though, Kelly. We apologize with deep sincerity. That's not correct. we love the quickness though, right? So we're going to allow you June 20. Santina says, is that correct? No. So keep drop. Daniel says July 20. So maybe it have to be a Wednesday here. Marsha, long time life class alum, right? Marsha Denny says June 22. That's correct. So I will leave the tech team to respond and tell you what is correct, but I think congrats are in order for somebody in the chat, right? We're going to pick up the conversation now, going a little bit deeper on how we can start to bridge the gap. So we start talking about it already, you know, but we want to go a little bit deeper. Because there are some big ticket items that tend to come up a lot when we're talking about the battle of the sexes, right? What are some of the big ticket items that come up? Communication. What else? Money. Security. Fidelity.
I was starting at the base. You have to actually want to.
Okay, because okay, good point, Noran. We're going to jump into the Q&A box. Someone says, my question to the men, why some men pursue females knowing they don't want them, while giving false hope and damaging that individual and giving them reason to be bitter against men? Very, very direct question there. Noran, you have the mic.
I'm going to say something that is a little mean, might sound mean. What he did was wrong. If he didn't want you, he shouldn't have pursued you. But minds change, things change, fine. Did you see it coming and stay hoping for the best? Or did it really just drop in and surprise you? Because when you were being pursued, as Michael said earlier, you're in the desire phase, so the brain not necessarily as sharp. Did you see some red flags and paint them white? And because it didn't work out, now you're upset. And I'm not taking away the feelings of upset that she has, because it doesn't feel good to be rejected or to be used or whatever the case may be. But let's be sure that is what happened.
Or was it the pursuit of sex?
Oh, the comments have gone there long ago.
If the pursuit of it was sex, if the pursuit was sex and you got the sex and you felt good being pursued, did you miss anything? Or were you in euphoria and weren't seeing the wood for the trees?
Are you serious right now?
Yes, I am. Because a lot of times, this man was pursuing you and you loved being pursued. And he genuinely may have made you think that, yeah, I want this to go somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't go there. And I'm sorry it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
But when the dust has settled, ask yourself this question. Did I see it coming and not look?
And sometimes the answer is no.
No.
Okay, and if the answer is no, that's absolutely fine.
Okay.
But we still
But you want us to do the assessment?
You still need to do the assessment, because if you don't want to become then old bitter baggy woman, we don't want you to become that.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point in time, you really need to go back to that crash report and say, hold on, I saw that June 22. You know, I thought I saw it, but I never saw it. Because we make excuses and justifications because we want something.
Sometimes.
So what he did, if he knew he didn't want her that way, he shouldn't have. Unfortunately, we don't live in the world of a man is still going to do a lot of the things that he wants. But as long as he's getting that allowance, he will continue.
But let's also put in the narrative that when we were both growing up, males and females, that we were told about Cinderella and Snow White and Prince Charming, and you were told that enough gal and gal in a bungle. And so you have been trained like a soldier to go in and extract what you want without providing what we want. And so that may be the situation where some men just stay so. Them go in real good with the pretense because that is their game. We can't not have the conversation without saying that that's how some men are socialized.
And as I said, there are some men who do that, and I believe that if you're not interested in having that kind of relationship, they don't do it. If at the start I said, okay, this is what I want. Or you stay, you good?
Make good.
All right, cool.
Tell me.
And we're doing that. And then halfway down the line, oh, but I thought it would have gotten to this. Oh, I'm still here.
Communication.
Communication.
if it is at the beginning of it, and I know Michael wants to come in because he must scratching eyebrow, but I at the beginning of it, if it is that because of what I look like, because of that is the first, you're attracted to it, and what you want is intercourse. Let me make that decision. Now tell me, say you want dinner and dating and all other things, because you never know. I may want the same thing.
You can tell me if you want.
Right now?
No,
Michael.
I'm joking. But why did you tell? You want us to communicate. You communicate too. Tell me
Yes.
that, hey, I just want to.
Oh, I will. Michael.
Right. So I think what I found interesting in your comment, Dana, is that you alluded to how we were raised separately, right? You know, men being raised, you know, to conquer enough woman and a bungle, and women being raised on this Cinderella notion, you know, the Prince Charming. No, I certainly sympathize with somebody who has been manipulated to do something against your will, you know. But I also believe there's a conversation to be had about agency, as Noran alluded to, because you are aware of how we were raised differently. You know that there are men who are simply after the thrill of the chase, right? And to be quite fair and to be quite frank, there are some men who are willing to play the long game, right? You have a 90-day rule, a man will sit through that 90-day rule to get what he wants and leave.
Day 91. Oh.
Day 91.
Day 91 is gone.
Right. So yeah, so men, we do have that, and I understand, you know, about it doesn't feel good to be manipulated.
No, it doesn't.
You know, and people feel cheated and you feel devalued, but at the same time, there is agency to be made to be had. When a man books him out time money, and people say, yeah, girl clown, quote unquote, we understand, so yo, this man has to take some accountability there, because yo, there are some signs. Nobody is perfectly, you know, an executor of that kind of fraud where you don't see at least a little sign.
Yeah, say never.
You don't see anything. But sometimes what happens is that halo effect. When the relationship is in that desire phase and you're just starting, you tend to downplay the flaws that you see. Red flags become red roses. And so you romanticize.
Mute yourself,
Michael.
Mute yourself.
Immediately.
That's what happens.
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Red flags, red roses, and mantrums. I like that.
I saw somebody saying, a lot of the commenters were saying that women want the lie. Is that true?
Well, I wanted to talk about that because I saw Xavier. I know Xavier, and I'm going with a bag of things. But I think that a lot of men think that we do want the lies, and we actually don't. I feel like you grow up thinking that you need to finesse all of us, and the modern woman that is walking around right now that calling herself independent and she have her own job and her money and she this and she that and she a dolly. If you tell her, say that you want.
But let's be honest.
Trust me, do my test.
On it, okay. On a social level right now, you're in a bar that you frequent and you just want sex. And you go to the girl and say, all right, I just want sex. And she's offended by that. Oh my God, that's all they want. Better guarantee Chinese telephone is going to happen. And every woman in the bar is going to see him as all he wants is have sex. Yes, that's true. But we're judged for that. So you hold on, you said that we must just say what we want. But most men are not going to say something if they know there's a good chance it's going to not work out for them.
And remember we just started.
I'm sorry. That's what?
Deception. Don't turn over the life class furniture, please.
Yeah.
Eyelash, eyebrow.
Yeah.
What is that?
No, that's not deception.
That's augmentation.
What's that?
That's augmentation, enhancement.
Enhancement. And if you really think that my eyelashes are born gold, then you need to assess.
I'd like
But
to.
when you Optimus Prime off when you go home, that's deception.
I don't know who you're dating right now.
That's, okay, I'll give you. But
Hold on, Noran, before you come in, I just want to say that we jump started the segment talking about accountability. And there is a way that we can stay from today into next season talking about, if I do this, I won't get the outcome that I desire. It doesn't change the fact that it should not be done.
Shouldn't be done.
Because it doesn't serve the space well. So I just want to put that out there,
So
right?
it's more honesty.
Honesty.
within the accountability.
Because the reality is there, as Stacey and Thompson said, some women are quite fine just knowing upfront to listen. I just want to do a 4 a.m. check-in. You understand? For the next 4 months until I go back to America or until my wife come back or whatever the
But
case
isn't-
is.
but
Some
I'm
people
saying,
are okay with that.
Some people are, but that number, I'm sorry, I believe that number is very small.
And
Feeling
it is what it is. It is what it is. It is what it is.
So
Number is increasing.
but then
And it
as
is
a man, you
increasing.
have to be careful, because if you get if your reputation is solid as a man, that sticks.
But no one
That
chose it.
sticks.
It's a
No,
choice.
exactly. So we chose it. But one side is saying, just tell us what you really want. The other side is saying, excuse me, what kind of girl do you think I am? So understand that we also get mixed messages from you.
So honesty is needed. More honesty is needed on
More
both sides.
And I feel there's a very thin line between being tactful and being deceptive.
Between
And
tactful, you said, sir?
Between being tactful and being
Tactful.
deceptive.
Please teach us. Teach us.
No, because using what Noran said, a lot of times, you can't necessarily approach a situation, especially if your intention is to have sex. If a man wants to pursue a woman purely on the basis that he wants to have sex with her, the man without tact will make that explicitly clear from the get-go. A woman might be open to it, but she's turned off because of the brazenness of it. Like, I might want this too, but how dare you approach me on this front? Like, you're not even coming with a style. Like, yeah, I'm
How dare you
interested.
approach me on this front?
Show me the style with it.
Yeah. So you're not even coming with a style to say, oh, this is what you want.
So all the style sound
go.
too.
I'm a different man. I don't know this.
See, now I know that's
Nattoo, we know that you, Steffon, and Karim have a podcast and you are in the space with men, right? So it might not be you, but like all the styles sound, so we can differentiate as women, right? So we're teaching each other this evening.
No, I feel like it's about reading the flow of the conversation. Like if you come in, if you have a certain intent and you go in, if there's a woman at a bar or something, you have certain conversations with them and you prod a little bit, but all the way you say, like what are you doing? Oh, like, is your boyfriend coming to pick you up? I don't have a boyfriend. And then, you don't have a boyfriend, and then somebody is supposed to be picking you up. Or maybe somebody won't mind if you come home with me tonight. And then the conversation is a lot more playful and it's a lot less pressure. And so if the woman is so inclined, she can then start to play too. Because, and there is also the argument to be made that if a woman initiates that, it's done. Because no, the man drops the act of feeling like he has to be tactful. Like, yo, this is the time you are on. All right, let's go. Let's go. We don't need to go through the games. We don't need to go through the peacock dance here. Let's leave. That's what I'm about. Yeah. Mm.
So Michael, first of all, you sound very fluid in the style. I just want to
I just want to let you know that.
I've Googled.
You've Googled.
Oh, Nadia MCN. That is bars right there.
Shoot your shot, but understand it may hit Kevlar. Ooh. I love the light.
Shoot your shot, but you might hit Kevlar.
What's his name? Xavier was in the comments saying, do not share or trick. It's a trap.
Well, at the end of the day, it comes down also to energy, because if somebody like it, they like it. If they don't like it, they don't like it. So how you approach them might have different effects, but there's a baseline of, I'm willing to be open to this person because I'm liking what I'm seeing. I'm liking how I'm feeling. So not everybody is going to have the same access. Not everybody comes from the same camp. There's so many differences, but let's not get burrowed down into you should do this, or you shouldn't do that, or you should do it, because everybody is different. So that same accountability, it works also inside that if somebody said earlier that how can your reputation be solid if that's who you are? It's a very good point. If you are I just want some sex guy, then hold on to that. Don't then be offended. But here's the thing, sex may not be the only thing I want. But if it's number one, doesn't mean it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if we come with it as number one, sometimes you run the risk of saying, oh, clearly you're just 1 to 10 sex. No, I actually would like to get to know you. But right now, I'm seeing it as like, that's what I'm getting. So you want us to be honest, then we are honest, we're a junker, or we're a dog, or we don't have respect for women. there's so many
I think that
doors that we have to go through.
I think that out of this segment of the conversation, because I know Kamala wants to move on, is that I will take the forward and I will take the tactile as well. But I want to know what your intent is. One of the best relationships I've had is somebody who I met. They said they liked me. We went out one time. We agreed that this is what we wanted. And then we did for one long time. Right? So just tell me, let me know what the intent is. Was it straightforward?
And
Are
the
we playing with
reason,
it?
exactly. And the reason for that too, somebody said it in the comments, is when it is that you're clear about what you want, it gives the other person the opportunity to make an informed decision, as opposed to it being a whole mind game. And next thing you know, you sold me the house on the hill and the 3.25 children, and then all of a sudden you ghost me and you're gone. Puss in a bag. On that point of the puss in a bag, can we talk about marriage for a quick second? Because that's another bottleneck situation between the two sexes where a lot of conflict and battling comes in. So let us fast forward now to where the two people, the two partners are together, right? And they reach a point now where one, make us say the woman, Dania, is saying, you know, say 2 years now and 3 months. So them start look on the finger, start look on the hand now, right? And the man is over there saying he's not ready, or it's not the right time, or other things that the men might say. How do we manage that piece of it? Because then we have feelings about, but so you just want to stay with me forever? Or I'm not good enough to wife, or etc., etc. Let me jump to Nattoo first. Nattoo, how do we manage that piece of the conversation?
I think first we have to understand that, you know, women tend to prioritize things differently in a relationship. And so they ascribe value differently as well. You know, for a lot of women, time spent is what's prioritized, and for good reason. You know, women rightly focus on their biological clock, you know, and as to how we're socialized, you know, the older a woman is, the reasoning is that she somehow becomes less attractive, when that may not necessarily be the case. So a woman, when she's asking about, you, when are you going to put a ring on it, it's needing to have that kind of security. So we understand when a woman says, yo, it's been 2 years and all of that, it's definitely a valid point that she's making from the perspective of a woman. Where it becomes an issue is if you realize that the man is delaying for reasons that are not rooted in your best interest and the best interest of the relationship. No, there are some men who grow up with some ideas about the kind of husband they want to be. They don't necessarily feel like, you know, we should just do marriage for a woman, but some men literally put stuff on, yo, this is the kind of man I want to be. So if a man says, yo, my finances are trash right now, I'm trying to figure this out, like, I think you deserve a certain life, and if we were to get married right now, I would not be able to give you that life, because in the same way that you have certain dreams about the kind of wife that you want to be, there are some men who hold very firmly to the kind of husband they want to be. True. And a lot of men are financially motivated. So when a man says, yo, all right, I just I'm trying to figure this out. You see that I'm trying to work. You see that I'm trying to work on this, and I'm trying to get these things right. So I understand the issue of time. And I also feel like there should be a cutoff point, you know, so the man is not constantly pressured and the woman isn't stuck waiting. You know,
when it's a cutoff point, I'm very curious to hear specifically what you mean. Do you mean, for example, that you want to tell the males that they shouldn't be with a woman for 5 years and don't marry her? I'm just curious. No,
so what I mean is you are two people in a relationship. You have your own personal goals and ambitions, and the woman has hers. You have to make space for that. And so if a woman reasonably assesses her situation and realizes that, yo, I needed to, for myself, accomplish this by X time, but it doesn't seem like you are on that path. No, it's not a matter of establishing an ultimatum, but it's more a matter of acknowledging what you want for yourself. And you can say to your partner, you know, I love you, I love the relationship, but there are things I need to accomplish that this relationship isn't necessarily making the space for. I need to move from this space so I can self-actualize. And it's not like she's saying, oh, you know what, married me, so me I go left and go find somebody who is willing to. It's not that. But she comes into the relationship thinking that, I have certain things checked off, just like what a man says, I need to have a certain amount of money. I need to have a certain number of assets. A woman has her equivalent. And so when she assesses the relationship and realizes that, this is not serving or pushing me towards the goals I have for myself, and I have to leave that agency, that accountability that we talked about earlier. Because someone can say, you knew I was waiting on all this, so why did you stick around? There are some men who reason like that. You were clearly okay with it because it's been 5 years and you're there and you say, I tried, nothing is not working as I wanted to, but you are still here. So how can you hold me accountable for the decision you make? So you have to hold yourself accountable to your personal ambitions and goals, even in the space of a relationship.
So that's what you kind of meant by the cutoff in terms of
that's what I
need our own standards of, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about Michael's comment here is that it's very balanced, because I don't think enough credence is given to women's needs as it relates to what marriage does for us, like what marriage, allows us to tap into. I feel like there is a kind of a minimizing of that. So I love how we amplify that. And the personal piece, no, Dania, talk to me about that, because it can be framed by some men as, look, I just want her to give me a little more time, and she just says she already know, and she give me an ultimatum and she gone.
I always shy away from the marriage conversation because I may be a little bit of an anomaly, because I've never thought of myself as being a married person. And it had nothing to do with how I grew up, because I grew up in a marriage situation. My parents were married and we had the great married life. And my mother will tell you that she couldn't believe when I was a teenager, when I said to her that I don't know, belonging to somebody is not something I crave like that for life, that I swear in front of my friends and God based on the ceremony. It's not that I don't love people. It's not that I don't want to feel safe and protected and committed in a relationship, but the actual ring and ceremony and status of it all, I don't ascribe to it as much as I think other women do. And so I kind of try to stay silent on the situation.
Thank you for saying that. And you said something very important in Dania. A lot of us frame marriage in some very interesting ways. It varies from person to person. So this is where some men get the perception that married in a lockdown and an end to my freedom. I am not going to be my own person anyway. Because you said something like that. You said like belonging to somebody.
Belonging, because based on our culture, I changed my name to your name, even though I can keep my name. And I'm not really tied to Beckford, but I'm saying that it's in our culture, and I know we can make our own rules and all of that. Me explore it in my mind, me think about it. But this belonging to somebody, and they call his name first, and
subscribe to the part there. Yeah. And
I don't feel it's an equal thing.
Somebody in the comments said that marriage is really benefiting women more than men. I don't agree. I don't agree.
There's a school of thought that nowadays benefits a woman more. A man can go through his whole life and not be married and not want to get married, but that's seen as something must be wrong with you. Because let's face it, we've been generations of us, we have put marriage as this ultimate thing. There's some women who use marriage as a validation of their self-worth. Man has nothing to do with it.
True.
So after 5 years, which seems to be the cutoff time, after 5 years, tell me the truth. After 5 years, all of a sudden it's so warm, so warm. So this is actually a conversation that I had with a married couple. And she was upset because after 5 years, she's wondering what's going to happen, what's going to happen. They've discussed it over the years. And one night they had a blow up about it because she asked him, so we're not getting married or what? He says, I don't think, I'm just not, marriage is not that important to me. It's not something I necessarily want to do right now. Wow. Not saying I'll never do it. It's just not on my mind right now. And she got up, stormed off and said, well, clearly you don't love me because you don't want to marry me. And he basically threw a chair out the window and stormed off. And she couldn't understand why. And I was saying to her, let me give you this justification. You and this man have been together. You started a business. You have a life woven into each other. He told you he wasn't really feeling marriage yet. And you said to him, clearly you don't love me. So everything he's done up to this day, you have now invalidated, belittled, and said, well, clearly you don't love me because you don't want to marry me. So nothing I've done up to this point, makes you think I love you, except me asking you to marry me. And when I said it that way, she kind of went, But that's not what I meant. I said, but that's what you said. So please be careful. When you start trying to justify or use love as some kind of marker, or marriage as some kind of marker of love, that is you validating yourself by this. Because suppose we get married today and in 3 months I'm cheating on you and gone. Are you okay because at least you got married first?
Right.
Yeah, and these are some of the issues I have with the marriage situation and my gender, because I'm sorry, my gender, I'm gonna have to depart from you on the marriage situation because momentarily, because I do believe that we pressure man to married way, and it's because we want hold we hand a little way and we want call ourselves Mrs. and I
take
just
picture for Instagram.
And I just it's I don't subscribe to it because I feel like a lot of times we live happier without the ring and the ceremony because we're already doing all the things that we love.
But labeling is a part of our nature, I think. Because labels create control. And a lot of people want to control. So I want to wear this and wear that. But in doing that and forming this column and putting it here, you have to actually recognize if you're actually even ostracizing the rest of it. You have to be careful, because if you are going to tell the man you've been with for 5 years, who's been with you through argument and heartache and stuff like that, and you're going to make a statement saying, well, clearly you don't love me because you don't want to marry me. You have to understand that you have now thrown dirt on the entire relationship to him. But to you, that's not what you meant. So careful what you say.
And Noran, based on what I heard you and Dania saying so far, and I'm coming to my call, there is a way that a lot of these important things need to be named as early as we can. Are you the marrying type? With clear intention, do you see yourself being a husband? Is that important to you? Could you live with me forever until the world done or until God come back and not be Mr. and Mrs.? Would that be good for you? Like explicit conversations about this, because then we end up 2.5 years in, right? Two different paths. And ultimately, two of us want to be together, but the terms are divergent.
Some of the terms will trigger even the man. As you said, so my thing, get married, my freedom is done. I can't do anything. But that comes from somewhere. The first set of men to start thinking that there's a reason they thought that. Because maybe in their particular situation, they got married and she's basically saying, you have a wife now, cut off everything else. So my advice to him would be, well, don't get married. But sometimes you have to get married to keep the girl. Because you may not necessarily want to get married, but you don't want to lose.
You don't want to lose.
So understand, on some level, everything is an ultimatum. Once you get to a certain relationship, everything is an ultimatum in some way, shape, or form.
I've actually seen a lot of that, where I've had male friends who marry when they didn't want to, but they didn't want her to leave. And then it ends up in disaster. They're divorced.
Straight up. Michael,
just because it
speak
feels
a word
good
onto us.
I feel like the conversation surrounding marriage in a lot of our relationships need to be a lot less romantic and a lot more practical.
Ooh, I'm in agreement.
And the reason why I say that is because as a man, I can understand. For a woman, there are a lot of benefits in a very practical sense that comes with being married that we may not necessarily prioritize as men, right? And you're talking about financial benefits because, you know, we cannot ignore that marriage in very large part is really a business decision. And so I'm not saying that women get married because of money, right? But it's an important element in ensuring security for them, you know, and their partner, because as much as we cover up these needs, a lot of them are rooted in you know, in survival. And as much as we dress up nice and we have our phones and something, we are coming from people who grew up in a time where they needed to be with a strong partner to be protected from the wild beasts roaming out there in the fields. And so we have these preconditions in our mind, and for years they have grown, so they might look different, but they are coming from the same place. So a woman might necessarily need to secure a partner in a long-term setting, in a marriage, because it satisfies that need of security, and it also satisfies that need for stability. Men, we don't particularly have those at the top of our list, because we feel like in order to achieve the things that we need, it warrants a certain level of instability that women may not necessarily be prepared to handle. And those things can make the relationships a bit rocky. Now, for me, when I'm having conversations about marriage, I don't want to be one of those men who have to marry to keep the woman, right? And I feel like when men do that, it's an admission that they have sacrificed what they need for the interest of the relationship. And so that creates, I believe, a certain foundation where you are constantly undermining your needs in the relationship. Because if you made such a big decision that, I'm not going to marry, and women as well, like, I would recommend to not go with a man who marries you out of reluctance. So like, all right.
Might as well.
It's
the words might as well come up as a man talking to the men.
Yeah.
You're thinking about getting married to a girl because you've been with her for a while, and the words might as well come up in your mind. Do not.
Don't.
You're wasting everybody's time.
Think again.
Yeah.
Things like, why am I there with her so long? I take a look away if I don't do it. No.
Yeah.
No. If it comes into your mind, don't.
Kamala, were you finished, Michael?
No, go ahead.
Can I ask a question though? What makes a man want to marry a woman?
That's a
Because I feel like we don't know.
We don't know. Talk to
So
us.
any one of you.
Mike?
Michael?
No, run throw it to you, Michael.
For me, it goes back to that rap thing, respect, accountability, and peace. And so when we find that in a partner, we feel like this is somebody that we can really conquer things with. Because I know for a fact that this woman is my partner. This woman makes space for my peace. And she understands that there's a certain level of respect mutually to be given. So I feel like what would push me to say, I want to make this woman my wife is, for one, she has to be my friend. And I don't need my woman to be my best friend, but she has to be my friend. Because a lot of times we end up in relationships where we're just doing this thing for relationship's sake, where we and this person, we do not have a relationship but we are in a relationship.
Yes.
Familiar strangers.
Actually.
Yeah.
Familiar strangers. Yeah.
Exactly. And so why I would move to that place where I can say, I would marry this woman is when I realize that she meets me with that patience, and I'm pouring into her as well, and I don't feel taxed from doing that. Because a lot of times when you are pouring into somebody and you start to feel empty, it's because they haven't been pouring into you. But when you realize that you have been pouring into your relationship and you still have the strength to move forward, you still have the strength to go after your own personal dreams, then you realize that, this is really only possible because of the woman I'm with, right? And she's pushing me, and not in a nagging kind of way, but she's really in my corner. And so I feel like that's why men might move to say, this is somebody I want to be my life partner.
Someone said earlier, can you scroll up a little bit for me, tech team? Someone said, Alan was sharing his vision of a woman that will make him marry if he's not yet married. He said if she's fit, feminine, and submissive, that will ensure her the right dream.
That word, man, that word is
the submissive word, right? And I don't know, I think that entire thing right there boils down to us sitting down, even when the vibe's nice, especially when the vibe's nice, and say, all right, what do you think about this? how do you show up in situations like this? What do you need? Right? What does peace mean to you? Like, it's awkward, Dania, and it may be unsexy, but me not see no way around it. Because when, for example, the word submissive comes up in a conversation, if you know where you know, you get pen and paper, you say, and start take notes. Because if submissive sounds like something that is triggering for you, then I would say, which part you go? You can't go no further with this. Because chances are it's deeply rooted in that man's value system, and it's deeply important to him. And there's a danger in trying to go in now, two months later, 5 months later, 2.5 years later, to try to change or unconvince him.
Try to understand.
Or try to understand at that point. When I'm deep in, we buy 2 cars together, we have a truck on the road, and we're doing bag of things together. 5
But you know,
taxis.
Submissive
both
does-
of us is with men and women is that I believe you only get away with what you're allowed to. So if the word submissive is a problem for you, and I use it regularly, and you don't say anything, a month and a half later, we get vexed with me. I'm like, what? We've been having this conversation for 3 months.
From the first date.
Yeah.
So then, no, I'm gonna probably start invalidating some of the things you're saying, because I'm gonna say, where does that come from? No. But then you're telling me it's been happening for 2 months, but you never tell me. So now I have to try and catch up with where you are, and you have to catch up where I am.
Yeah.
You can't negotiate in a time of war. You
No
negotiate
type-
in a time of peace.
No
as she
type
said.
of submission works for me.
No type of submission
No,
works for
but
Dania.
Categorize and qualify what you think when you hear the word submission. What is your definition of submission? Because it might vary from what the man has in mind. You may not like the sound of a word, but it doesn't make it any less true. So tell me what the word submission means to you.
It mean for me, when I hear submission, I think
Dania, sorry, Alan just came back in. Alan says, you submit to your boss daily, but no, you have an issue submitting to a man.
No, I'm my own boss. I'm an entrepreneur. So submission does not work for me on any front.
Unless
So
you
I
decide to be
don't
submissive.
want, unless I decide to be, and I still don't think I'm being submissive. Because if I'm giving of myself to you, it's because I want to do this for you. It's not because you are coming down to do it. Submission for me, in my mind, means that you are trying to get me
one-up
to
me.
do something that I wouldn't necessarily be comfortable with doing.
Have you
And that's
asked the
why
man what he
you're like,
means?
no to that. Alan says,
Because I don't want nobody to do that for me.
So why not
either.
ask him what he means by
No,
submission?
I would, but my first comment will always be submission on any front doesn't work for me because me don't want you to feel uncomfortable to do something for me either. You understand what I'm saying? I don't want you to feel like you have to do it.
Well, the word submission has taken on a negative connotation for quite some years.
Right.
which is
Alan
fine.
says, Dania, that you submit to your customers.
I actually don't. Submission doesn't work for me, Alan. Drop it.
Once again, before you start attacking anybody or having an issue with how somebody interprets something, explain what the persons mean. So this is for the men. If you said if the word submissive to you means respectful and showing me some modicum of appreciation,
Respect,
then
etc.
tell her that that's what you mean when you say submissive. Because again, nobody here is a mind reader. But for the women, no, sometimes before you get into attack mode or before you get offended or incensed, ask him what he means first. We all talk about that, yeah, we want to communicate, but not everybody communicates effectively. True. So before you get incensed when he says, I'd like a woman who is feminine and submissive, ask him what those breakdowns mean. Then if it doesn't work for you, then hey, have at it.
And I get that. Oh wait, Michael, you go. You can go.
No, I was saying, I think, so 2 points. If you find yourself in a position where you have to ask for submission, you probably don't deserve it.
Oh.
See there.
The second thing for me is I believe submission is rooted in leadership, right? And because submission is rooted in leadership, a leader isn't someone who necessarily just gets up and say, I want to be a leader. A leader is someone who is built through his actions and through the support of the people behind him. So if somebody becomes a leader by consistently showing that they can make decisions in the best interest of the people within their care. So that's how you become a leader. Now, if somebody fulfills that particular mandate, you shouldn't necessarily view that as degrading to submit to somebody who is specifically invested in your best interest. I feel like submission takes a bad rap because a lot of men or a lot of people who are vying for positions of leadership aren't necessarily qualified to be leaders, right? And so that's where the disconnect is, and we see it, you know, in a much broader scope when we look at our country or even places around the world where a lot of persons who might be unfit for positions of leadership are in there. And so because of that, they tend to have a lot of attrition. We're having a lot of brain drain now because we can't necessarily trust the leadership, right?
Yes.
And that's the essence of it. So in a marriage, I don't think submission is inherently a bad thing. And between a man and a woman, I feel like while there is this general current of men being, you know, put in those situations where they are like, oh, you are to submit to me outside of a biblical context, there's a conversation to be had about strengths and weaknesses. If I'm a man, I'm a writer, I'm a poet, and I'm with my wife, happens to be an accountant. I don't need to be doing the accounts of the house. She's better tasked at doing that. Those are her specific skill sets. You know, but if it comes down to, for example, building a house and I'm a mason and everything, when I'm going to expect that she's going to say, oh, I want to do this because I don't want to submit to you. That's why I say a lot of these conversations have to be rooted in practicality. Yeah. Have these very practical conversations. What are your skill sets? And let's interchange. In what role do you best perform optimally? If that is handling the bills, handling the finances, then of course I'm going to submit to your better judgment in this situation. But if you are a poor decision maker in those situations, there is not a track record for me to feel confident in offering my submission to you. Yeah. And I feel like that's what it comes down to.
I still don't, I don't know, maybe I'm thinking about it in the wrong way, but I still don't think any of this has anything to do with submission.
It sounds like partnership to you?
It sounds like partnership to me because even in the example that Alan brought up, and it's not an attack, Alan, but you mentioned you submit to your boss. Okay, boss pays. So immediately you're putting it in a situation, it's somebody over you. You submit to the people who are my customers. No, I provide them with a service and they provide me with their money. And so we both help each other. So if in a relationship, I'm providing my skill set because I will remember to pay the bills, but I'm not good with the maths. So you have to check you up and make sure I pay the right thing, right? So it's not a submission. It is a partnership because I'm giving of mine, you are giving of yours. And even if it is that we're talking about sex right now, if I'm giving of my body to you and you're giving yours to me, unless of course we don't want open relationship and a submission, I'm giving it to you because I want to. So submit.
So I hear you loud and clear and I get it. I feel like when we talk about submission, more often than not, we're framing it in the Judeo-Christian context, well, many religious contexts, that the man is the natural God-appointed leader or head of the household. And I have issues with the way some men frame this headship and this leadership.
No.
Because some men, for them, headship means you do not speak. You do not digress from what I'm saying. If I say this, then a this. It is autocratic, it is dictatorship, it is like my voice alone speaks. And to me, if we're both adults, then we don't know which part does I go. That makes no sense. Exactly. So that's the context, Dania. And if we don't sit in that context or subscribe to it, then it just kind of sounds like, but we can do this without the term or without the implied.
Like that's where I
am. Yeah. So it's sounding like, tell me if I'm wrong, it's more a problem with how it sounds than what it actually is between those two persons.
The way some people frame it.
You don't like how the word submission sounds, but if you find out what it means by submission, and he finds out that you don't like what it is, then you guys say, okay, let me phrase it differently, or let me word it differently. But the fact is we're coming down to, I don't like how it sounds, so therefore I'm not going to even listen to it. And that's a part of the problem. Nobody's listening to each other. Everybody's talking at each other. Everybody wants to be mad and get their point across, but nobody's actually listening.
I just want peace.
So hold on, we're at 10 minutes to go, and the conversation has been so riveting that I don't even think nobody realized that we only have 10 minutes left, right? There's a very powerful question in the Q&A box that I'd love to get some quick thoughts on from especially our two male panelists. Someone says, why does the man think he needs to give the woman a certain life? Why can't they both build that life they want together?
It depends on the girl. If she comes from a place where you're supposed to take care of me, then she wants to have a life built for her. That is her tradition, and that's how she is. And you meet her like that, then that's the answer to the question. We were raised as men that you are to be the provider, period, full stop.
Yep.
What you get from that might vary depending on how you're raised, but we are raised that you're supposed to add value to her life financially, socially, whatever alley you want to put on, but you're supposed to make her life better. That's how we were raised. If you're gonna marry her, you have to quite literally take her from her father and you take care of her from there. That's what we were taught. You have your Disney, we have our someone for them too.
So
And we are
Charmaine,
trained up in that.
yeah, that's true. Charmaine is raising another perspective, which I think is why the person asked the question. Charmaine says, I like that question. It's oftentimes an excuse. And I want to jump to Nattoo for your thoughts on this whole issue.
So why not build it so when you are building a house, somebody has to bring the cement, somebody has to bring the blocks. Of course, we can make the argument about building together, but the point is we have to come with something. Because of how we were socialized, how we were raised, the thing that we feel we have to come with, unwarranted or not, is a good financial standing. So it's not a case where we are opposed to building the one, because when we look to making somebody our life partner, we are making an outward expression of the sentiment that this is somebody I want to build with. But in order to build with you, I need to bring these particular tools. I need to bring these particular elements to the relationship so that there is something to build, right? We can't just show up on a plot of land where we spend NHT money on both away empty-handed and say, let's build. Build with what? There is
Michael,
nothing.
I think a part of why the person raised the issue in the comment is because sometimes, for example, you may have a woman who's bringing a lot, and the man will still be hesitant to go to the next level of, marriage, whatever it is, right? Because of that thinking that I want to be able to give this life to you. When if you put your piece and my piece together, we have more than what it is that we need.
I also lost the whole relationship based on that.
Because
I have been with a man who has less than me, because I also want to bring something to the table. Me like Cameron on good day too, And also I've been in a situation where I know that we were going out with a bunch of friends and he did not have the amount of money to cover what we would pay for. And before we get there, we talk about it and me give my card. Me not have them type of things, but what I do have is that at some point, I don't want to be stressed about the fact that I have more, so I pay more. So you can come into a relation, and I will agree to a relationship if you have less, but I want you to level up in whatever you are doing. You don't necessarily have to have more than me. You don't have to take care of me. I'm not a princess. I don't require you to take care of me, but I also want you to level up to validate your own self. You know why you're in the thing, I feel like, oh, you're below me and then it causes issues. That's when I have issues.
There,
loud and clear.
I think there's another side to it, because of how ingrained that mentality is of men needing to be the providers, especially in a financial sense. If you are with a partner who can sufficiently provide for both of you, and what you bring to the table will make a complete thing. Sometimes the reason why men are hesitant is because these things come back to bite us in a lot of ways.
Comes back to?
They come back to bite us. They come up in arguments.
Oh, yes.
And it is used as, and for Dania, while you giving him your card is something commendable, right? But in doing that, there's also an admission that even though I provide this, if you are not the person seen providing this for me, it's going to look bad. And you now ask yourself, why is that? Because you are saying you gave him your card and you had all good intent It's saying because I want you to basically look like the provider. In that, there is the admission that I expect you to be the provider, and because you can't provide, I'm going to assist you in creating the illusion that you are the provider, even though you have good intentions for doing it, you know. And I'm saying there is also an element of that to consider as well.
Are you saying to me that that's what it feels like to the man? Because in my mind, I did that because I wanted him to be confident in the situation, because we know say the kind of, but I'm saying we never have enough money to go. So I'm asking if you as the man feel like that what I did would stir up that in you, because I was never thinking of that.
Okay.
I was just trying to protect the fact that
You know
you feel a little way, so
therefore
nobody feel away.
So you have now recognized that there could be an ego issue. He could feel away. So you're now trying to circumvent it to not make him feel bad.
Right.
That's the consideration.
Right. That's my consideration.
some
So I'm
point in
asking
time,
how you
Why?
feel.
But why what?
The question is, but why? Why do you think that would make him feel away?
Because he did, in the particular situation, he didn't want to come because he did not have the money.
Insecurity.
Right. So
Well,
I didn't
hold on.
want him to feel like that. And I wanted him to come with me because I knew that if he had the money, he would come. So I was trying to circumvent that. But I want to know how you feel, because we don't want to do that again.
Well,
I don't want to do it if it's
everyone-
just
I'm a life
negative.
class.
no,
you want to learn,
everyone
yeah?
is different. Everyone is different. And you said it's not necessarily, you might call it insecurity, but really it is, I know my limit. You know what I'm saying? You must act your age, you must act your wage too. So sometimes I do not have the money to go out with you. I'd love to, but right now I'm kind of weak.
So we're not go.
Rather than put myself in the position where you have to use your money. I know you have your car loan to do. I know you have other things to do. Babe, do your thing. I'm good. Because he doesn't want to feel like he does not measure up.
And my
I know
question
you
for
call it
all
insecurity,
of
but
us,
it's not.
my question is, should that be the case? Because Kelly Francis said, it sounds like ego, Michael. It sounds like ego,
No,
Noran.
I said
And-
earlier, ego is a part of
And,
everything.
and the ego is real, but is it helpful? Helpful versus harmful? Because here again, Xavier is being Xavier, and Xavier is saying that Dania, you emasculated the man in that scenario. And
Look.
to me no, it is creating a kind of a double standard, Michael and Noran, because then when a woman says, I want to act my wage and I don't date men who can't bring more than I can, you hear now, the woman,
Well,
we're finicky and we're hype and we're gold digger,
But guess
because
what?
we want to avoid these ego
but
issues.
do you, because you being that way avoids the man who you don't want to waste your time.
That part.
Same thing with the man. If she's a woman that she wants to do this because she feels like spending, and you know that you don't have it that way, and you don't want to run into a situation where, oh, I'll pay for it because it's me have the money, then leave it alone.
I feel like in this situation, I probably know that I'm listening to all of you. I probably was a little bit selfish because I wanted him to come. And I know that it is
No.
a place that he would
No,
want
I
to
don't think you're
come.
being, I would not say you're being selfish.
Okay, because
But-
I was trying to
But
help.
every fish, every fish have its own net. Every fish have its own line, whatever the saying is. Everybody is different. So he himself
Mhm.
might not feel like you were being selfish because he knows
Alan
that I
said
want
she
you to
was
come.
No, Alan,
I'm not surprised,
but
yeah.
I'm trying to learn here.
He might say, you know what, babe, I respect that, but I'd rather not be in that position. So
Next, yeah.
understand. You can either work with that or you don't. If you start to suppose and wonder if and without actual data,
Mhm.
that is when the danger starts, because you're going off of your understanding and what you think it might look like,
Mhm.
but you haven't heard it from him.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, this particular situation ended up fine because he was actually fine about the situation.
He was
But
fine.
my thing in everything is that I always want people to be confident in whatever you're doing. So if it is that you're in the relationship and I make $5 and you make $2, if you're doing your best and your level up is $2, I don't mind, because I want you to be confident about that $2 and not stress me because I have 5 and you feel bad about my 5.
Mm.
That's my point.
So hold on, we're at 1 minute, but we're gonna have a little extra because of final class and stuff.
Mhm.
We're gonna ask our tech team, Michael, you're frozen, so just turn off your video and turn it back on, please. Yeah. Tech team, please go ahead and launch our post-class poll. And remember, it's only for the men. It's
Okay.
especially for the men this week. And Michael, please give us your thoughts on this very deep scenario.
So, you know, they mentioned that it's ego, right? And it is. Not all ego is bad ego. There's some rooted in very good intentions, I believe. And so when a man says, all right, if you want to provide for him, I remember reading, and you might be familiar with this book, Kamala, Mating in Captivity, Esther Perel,
Esther Perel is a boss.
a boss. And she pointed out something that I feel is very important to this particular conversation. She says, being a caregiver is the ultimate way to kill desire in a relationship. The fastest way for you to have a woman lose interest, according to the experts, because I'm no expert, is to be that man's caregiver. Because now you start to see them in a different light. There's no longer desire, but responsibility. And so when you feel like you have to be the one responsible for him, a man cannot necessarily put himself in that position where he feels like I have to be dependent on this person and have to also deal with the backlash of this person possibly not desiring me as much as they did because they have now become my mother for all intents and purposes.
So I think we just did several leaps and several reaches. Somebody in the comment section earlier said that it depends on the stage of the relationship. Because I know I've sat in spaces with you and your brothers from the Men's Truth podcast, and we had a similar conversation about, all right, so first date and second date and so on, the man wants to assert himself financially. But when we are building the house now, Noran, you understand? And my little retro check come in before yours. You're trying to tell me, so you don't want me to put it forward for our well-being? Because we now stretched over. I think we're trying to toe a very delicate line between responsibility and caregiving versus partnering. And I think it's a very delicate line.
Once again, it comes down to the ego of each man. And like I said, ego isn't always the bad version of ego. Pride, things like that. These are all parts of the same mixture. But it also depends on how that man came up. If he came up being told that if you take money from a woman, you are not a man, you are beneath men, then worse if it's somebody who you regard as wise and somebody you rate, then that's going to be your mind frame going forward. When you're getting to know the person, ask those little questions, because those can give you insights into how a person came up, and if how they came up is still a part of how they feel right now, present day. So if he's like, if you try to reach over and pay, he says, no, I got this. It's all right, don't worry. That's one thing. If you reach over and pay and look at it like, you realize that you're embarrassing me, what is wrong with you? Then you realize that's a different mind frame. So understand the animal you're with. Signs like that, date two, that's not for you. If you have a problem with it, that's not the man for you. Don't sit in it like you're trying to get the pension and then vex. No.
That is a word right there.
Yes, just one thing to add, if I might liken it onto something else. If you are looking at sex, for example, if you find that you are constantly the person who initiates, regardless of how good it feels or how good you feel after the fact, that's something that's going to come up, that's something that's going to play on your psyche. You'd like at point for your partner to be the one to come in and say, yo, no, I can start this. I want to take you on this journey. So it's kind of like that, where the man has no problem if the woman initiates, but if it constantly becomes your responsibility to initiate time and time again, then it's going to wear on it. So I just feel like it's a similar dynamic when it comes down to finances and men and ego in relationships like that.
Thank you for that, Michael. Melville says, listen, it's about managing assets. After all, I have to be with a woman of substance and we back up each other. So I feel like it boils down to the individual, and we can't generalize in this. Yeah, pretty much from last week into this week, it's knowing the person that you want to be with, right, and figuring out, is this a match for me? Right. We have our post-class poll, and I can't wait to hear what the men said, right? So my mood has improved since the start of this class. 87% of you said yes or sort of, and we will take that, right?
I'll take it.
The second one says, I feel more prepared to date or have relationships in an intentional way. We have 91% of the men said either yes or sort of. So big up on yourself, Dania, Michael, and Noran. I feel more equipped to spot incompatibilities in a partner or prospective partner. 96% of men said yes or sort of. Number 4, I'm more comfortable to own how I can show up better in relation. I like that one here. 98% of the men said either yes or sort of. And finally, I received what I expected from this class. 93% of you said either totally or mostly. To big up on yourself, please, and thank you, right? I want to offer the chance to give away one more thing in life class. So real quick for the in-studio audience now, because we have to balance the thing, right? The first person who can tell us the name of the author that Michael just quoted from wins for themselves. Esther Perel, big R up. Yay! And we saw a petition being signed in the chat for Michael to return to season 5. I want to say,
I'm signing.
you're signing,
I'm
right?
signing.
Listen, the way our life class sweet me this season, more than sweet me. Celia from our wonderful production team is inviting you to share your feedback on this season by sending an email to myjanecircle@janegroup.com. If it is that you do that, you may end up being randomly selected for a special wellness box. So just send the feedback, right? I want to say thanks. Xavier said,
Noran is
Xavier, please come to the in-person version of live class next year.
Yeah.
Xavier said that Noran was a beta male last week. He said he improved this week, right? So I'm so grateful for all the feedback about all our panelists. I want to just say a special thank you to all of you. And I want to give you the chance to give a 30-second final thought on how we can just move forward, dropping the weapons, as Steffon said last week, and picking up the tools. So let me start with Dania.
Okay, well, for me, it's always communication.
Yeah.
I think that if we communicate in an amicable way, and if I'm for the respect as well, always, and if we're clear about our intent in everything that we do, even if you think it might hurt the person's feelings, I think they will respect the fact that you are upfront, you are honest. And so communication, and keep it confident, people.
Well, like it. Confidence Queen has said what she had said. Let me jump over to Michael.
Ultimately, I feel like we just need to have very real and practical conversations and understand above everything else that a lot of the times when you are arguing, you need the same thing at the same time. So there is nothing wrong with allowing one person to get what they need first so that you can get yours after. So most of the time you're fighting for the same thing. So just go forward with that mindset.
Wisdom. And Noran, who came decked out this week in Timberland because him said I'm ready for the war. Noran, how can we drop the weapons and pick up the tools?
Let the respect and understanding be as loud as the disrespect.
Amplify that.
The way you get vexed and carry on, put that energy into trying to find the solutions if there is a problem. Just listen. And as juveniles at my son, be nice to each other. I think too often we are way too comfortable not being nice to each other in a relationship. Something as simple as, instead of saying the first thing or the second thing, say the third thing. But actually think about it. Once you get too comfortable not being nice to your partner, that is pathway to the end of your relationship.
I love it. And I just want to just also amplify Carla's energy from last week, because Carla was big on the self-reflection and the ownership piece. Make we talk the truth to ourselves first, because sometimes we end up doing this to our partners, especially our men, women, let's be honest. And sometimes we have at least 2% of a role that we have played in the situation.
All right.
2, Noran, 2%, mistake, right?
It's
3.
Three.
No, we're not 5.
3,
5.
5. Okay. No, we're done.
Xavier, we're praying for you, right? We are praying for your soul. I want to give a huge thank you to the amazing team that you don't see every week. The names are many, but I want to call a couple. Pilar, Celia. We love Celia. We love Whitney. Kevin, Claudine, Javon, just the entire team. Whitney, Kevin, all of you. Alwyn, we love you. We thank you for just creating this space for us. This has been an amazing season 4. We can't believe a season 4 already. And I'm looking forward to a season 5. In studio audience, make some noise. And we hope. Thank you, Xavier. I'm going to big up myself. Yes, very much. And until next time, take care on a good self. Message for season 5, Xavier. We'll talk about it. Right?
Xavier up here.
Big up you, good sis.
Big up.
You've done well.
Thank you kindly. I receive it.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. And until next time, please take care of your good self and each other, because we need it and we deserve it. Be well. See you all next time.
Michael.
Michael, we're buying the book.
Michael, what's the name of the book? What's the name of the book again?
It's a journal. It's Live, Love, Laugh, a book of
Live,
poems.
Love,
and
Laugh.
Love that.
Okay.
Live, love, laugh.
And where
By
can we
Michael
find it?
Nattoo. Where can we find
We're
it?
working on something else. We're working on something else. It's on Amazon, but we're cooking. And the Men's Truth podcast, we're still cooking. So just look out for that as well.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. See you in season 5. Live Talk 101. I had a great time.